Hello, you're listening to an episode of Dramas Over Flowers. This is the Long Yak, where Saya, Anisa, and Porma, that's me, get together once a month to talk about our current watch lists. Sometimes this means fangirling, but frequently this means disagreements and debates about motives and morality. Join us in our K-drama dissection by subscribing to this podcast, following us on Twitter at DramasOverflow, or emailing us your thoughts at dramasoverflowers@gmail.com. If you're supporting us on Patreon, thank you for every episode you help us create. For everyone else, thank you so much for listening. If you want to support us on Patreon too, our pledges start from $1 a month and they make production of this podcast possible. You can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/dramasoverflowers. Now, every Long Yak is painstakingly transcribed by the amazing K-drama daydreamer, who can be found on Twitter at K-drama daydreamer. You'll find the link to the transcriptions as well as the timestamps of this episode in the show notes below. And now, welcome to our Yak.
Hi everyone, this is Saya.
This is Anisa.
This is Porma.
And yay, we're back for a new Long Yak. So what's everyone been up to in the last month?
Roma, you go first.
I'm trying to think what I've been up to.
You've had the best month.
I did? How did I?
Oh yes. Tell them about your email, the podcast thingy. You know.
Okay.
You're a successful fan.
Yeah, I'm a successful fan. That's true.
That's very appropriate for this episode.
Okay, so very quickly, there is a podcast I follow. It's called Smart Bitches Trashy Books, hosted by Sarah Wendell, who's this amazing blogger, and she reviews romance novels, YA novels, a ton of stuff. So I've been listening to her podcast for years, and over time, I've been sort of analyzing how she edits her podcast and all of that. And aside from Dramas Over Flowers, I also started about 6 months ago editing other people's podcasts and getting paid for it. So a few weeks back, I wrote her an email sort of telling her this, that sort of she inspired my podcast editing style. Like, I feel like I owe all of that to her because she inspired me to do it, like editing podcasts and just podcasts in general. I love podcasts because of her. And she read my email out on her podcast. So I was like,
and weed along with it was so. I mean, the email was great, but her reaction was great as well.
Agree.
It was like, wow,
Yes.
that was.
yeah, I loved it. And she loved our name. She loved Dramas Over Flowers.
Yes. She shouted us out and she recommended us. So that
Yeah.
was cool too.
And so she also happens to know about Korean drama. I mean, everybody knows about Korean dramas, I hope. But she's watched them. So she actually got what Dramas Over Flowers referred to. Yeah, that was cute. That was super cute.
And I also have to say, I just want to give a shout out to the fact that your editing skills are really, really, like, I don't know about the tech stuff, but in terms of your content editing, it's like amazing. You really have an ear for picking out the interesting stuff and letting the
Yes.
breathe. And I think it really shows in, the finished product of our podcast.
Oh,
Because our
guys.
conversations don't go as like
My
amazing.
mom, yesterday she was like, wow, that sounded like it didn't have any editing at all. I was like, farm was really good. Yeah. So
Thank you. Okay, on to somebody else, please. How did your day go?
I'm just in Ramadan, and so like things are tiring, and also real life is kind of stressful. But I don't want to go into it.
But is everyone eating good food in the evenings?
I don't know. Sometimes the iftars are kind of hit and miss, to be honest.
Well, I've come down to just having rice, so it's like.
Oh
Your
man,
first
don't
day.
break my illusions. It's in my head. Iftar is always amazing.
Oh no, it is, but like because you actually need to sort of make sure that you're feeling comfortable and that your stomach and your skin and all of that, especially because like not being able to drink during the day, like it always takes a bit of a toll on my skin. Like especially because the days are so long at this time of year. I mean, they've been getting shorter because Ramadan's been moving back, but we're at the stage where we're sort of the days are getting longer right now. But compared to the last few years, they are much shorter. But the water thing it's a careful balance of eating like the right amount of fruits and vegetables, and like maybe you're allowed to have 3 fried items, like, you know, thumb-sized ones, and everything else is like good food. But it actually, you know, when you're fasting, everything tastes amazing. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of rice, but like, and yes, I know that's
You're
sinful for a
bad
Bengali.
Asian.
I'm a bad Bengali, man.
I love rice.
Next, you say you don't like fish, and then what will do with you?
We're actually like Punjabis are known for like loving their bread, but I am a rice person, so I guess I'm also a traitor because I don't love roti.
I love roti see, but like, yeah.
Okay, before we make this into like a Ramadan / food podcast, because I feel like that could be a whole other thing.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to say that, like, you know, last month we were saying about not watching dramas, and I was like, well, I wasn't planning to not watch anything because I've kind of given up on my willpower in that direction. But actually, I ended up not watching anything for like 3 weeks.
Oh, good job.
I just didn't have time. I was so busy. And then, of course, in the evenings are kind of sacred, so you don't want to use your Ramadan nighttime for rubbish.
Speaking of my own semi-commitments to what I wanted to do, I have been able to fast a few days, so that's
Oh, have you? Oh, mashallah, that's so good.
But I haven't been fasting from dramas as much, although I haven't watched a ton either, so.
I also want our listeners to know, because, you know, I meet a lot of people who aren't able to fast, and they're sad about that, but I would like them to know that it's okay. Like, you don't have to feel bad if you can't fast, because not everyone can. Fasting is a thing that you have to be in tip-top condition for, really. Like, Ramadan is still, there's so much you can get out of Ramadan even when you're not fasting. So
yes,
don't be sad. And if you watch the odd drama or two, you do what you need to do.
On that note,
smooth segue into what is everyone watching?
I think everyone's watching Her Private Life, right? Okay, there's a lot of fangirling I would love to do about this drama, because I thought a few weeks back, with I think around the 7th and 8th episode, it just did this whole, it did a big misunderstanding trope thing, which I was afraid was going to ruin the second half, and then it didn't. It resolved it really fast, went forward with how amazing these two are as a couple, and just kept being awesome. And I thought, hey, dodge the whole curse of the second half. And I just watched the 14th episode this morning, and I loved it. They just hinted at something, not hinted, they've just pretty much said it, at something that's going to happen in the last 2 episodes that I think is a bit extra. No, it's definitely extra, was not necessary at all in this drama.
Was it the childhood connection?
Yes, it's a childhood connection. Why is it necessary?
Just like, I haven't watched any in the last month, so I'm still at the point I was in the last Yak, which is like the end of episode 8, I think, and they hinted at it there.
Right, the dream. I know, I saw, I remembered, and I was very mad.
I know that this was coming, but that doesn't make it any better.
I did a mental facepalm at the whole, really. Do we have to? Can we?
Because when at the end of 14, Saya, when you get here, you would realize that all the arcs have already been wonderfully fulfilled. You don't actually need anything more. But now they have gone and they are like, no, we want to stick this one more thing.
Well, it wouldn't be a K-drama. We should start doing K-drama bingo, man.
Oh, yeah.
I refuse to acknowledge that there's 2 more hours of the show. I'm so happy with where it is now. I'm just going to stop. I can't stop, though, because I have to write a review.
Yeah, that's just a lie. We're all going to watch it.
Yeah, because Anissa has to write a review, so she has to actually watch it.
Yeah. But it's like perfect at 14 episodes. All you have to do is retroactively edit out like 5 minutes of whatever's come before, and it's a perfect drama.
Yeah. Oh, you know how they always they can't sustain the chemistry after the couple has gotten together, usually. It just somehow just tanks. It's really hard for them to keep the tension up. I like what they did here. One thing was that the relationship is very genuine, so all the interactions are amazingly just wonderful to watch. But the other thing is, after they got together and they kissed, they just didn't kiss anymore for like several more episodes. And I thought that was amazing. They hugged a lot, which I really appreciate, but that was a good call. Because, when finally it happens again, you're like, you didn't even realize what subconsciously you were hoping it happens again. So that in and of itself was a sort of a like that holding back.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that these two have like supernatural chemistry with each other.
Damn.
But I was thinking about because I re-listened back to our conversation about Romance is a Bonus Book and how you were like, how much you loved their chemistry, and I was like, I wasn't really feeling it, but like when you were talking, you were like making it sound as if I just didn't find that they had enough physical chemistry, but I wasn't necessarily meaning that I needed it to be like, more skinship or anything like that. I just didn't find them to have the kind of intimacy that I like, and I think that they do a really good job with these two, where like you can see their relationship progressing, and it's not like it doesn't necessarily have to be like physical progression, which I don't really care as much about. But it's the conversations that they're having and the way that they're like slowly revealing the most private like traumas and the things from their past that they don't really tell anybody else, but they're like, like I think the most romantic thing is having that person who is like willing to stay by your side and like listen to you and who you can trust, and like they have such a strong bond. And so we got to see them developing that bond, which is amazing. And that's where I think the chemistry really comes in. It's not necessarily like, kissing and all of that. That's
I
just icing
agree.
on the top of the cake. But it's really that relationship development, which like I personally just didn't feel as much after they got together in Romance is a Bonus Book. But I mean, of course, everybody is. It's interesting with this show because I really hate the fact that Dokmi and Ryan have this childhood connection, but then like his other childhood backstory was actually surprisingly very well done, and it made me cry. And like it doesn't hurt that it's like his mom's played by Lia, who's like answer me mom, and like we all love her, and she was able to she was able to give so much life to a character whom we had like not even seen up to that point, and yet she became so real so quickly. So like I loved that, and then I was like, we don't need anything else from the past, like because all of that is kind of coincidental, but it also makes sense because he's been chasing, like these paintings have a meaning, so he's been chasing the paintings, and so it like makes sense for all those people to like come into each other's orbit. But the other thing is it's just like that would never happen. It doesn't need to happen. It's just anyway. Yeah, that's all.
Sometimes I imagine sort of a situation like after the events of the drama is done, where all of the family members, like all the main pair has gotten married, all the family members are getting together and they're having like a drawing room conversation or a dinner table conversation, and the situations of the drama come up then. Is that even possible? Is that a normal? Saya, close your ears. I'm going to spoil it a bit.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a spoiler for what they hinted at in episode 14, guys. So if you guys want to avoid it, check the description. I have the spoiler-free timestamp there. Okay, so Dokmi's mom is like serving, I don't know, some rice to Brian and going like, yeah, you remember that time when I apparently fostered you and then abandoned you at a what was it, orphanage? And Ryan is like, yeah, I do remember that time, and that gave me trauma for like 30 years. Yeah, so that's a conversation that's never going to happen in a real life drawing room situation. I'm just, why do this?
It's so unnecessary. It's so nonsensical, and like there's no reason for them to have known each other as children. There is no reason.
It's believable until right now.
Exactly.
Believable, matlab, they can still have that drawing room conversation without it getting like super Makjang. But right now they're going to Makjang territory. Why? And this woman, Dokmi's mother, does she have an obsession with collecting other people's children? Why does she have so many other people's children around her?
It's like adopting one child, but then like there's another one. I don't understand.
And then Cindy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Cindy. I actually really like where they went with her character.
Oh, I really like that too. Right before they did that last thing in the end.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call Sarah back.
Okay.
I'm back.
Yay. Yeah, I think we're done.
I think we're done too. Yeah. I'm done. The show is over. It's a good show. I'm happy.
It's a very good show. I love it. I'm gonna definitely probably enjoy the last 2 episodes as well. And hey, tons better than how Secretary Kim was ending in terms of just Yeah,
Psychometric
general.
Kim was 8 episodes longer than it needed to be.
Yeah, this is only 2 episodes longer than it used to be.
That's an improvement.
Yeah, which is fine, which is great. Which is amazing drama overall. Man, I'm so gonna rewatch it the moment it ends. That's all I'm
X
gonna
already
do.
ended, right? So
Exactly. Start now. Okay.
Since we're talking about completed shows, can I quickly come in for a minute on just to sort of do a final debrief on what's it called? Psychometric Guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think last month we were 2 episodes short of it finishing, and after that I wrote a long up review, which is on Drama Beans if anyone wants to read it.
It's so good. Go read it.
I was going to say, well, the drama wasn't. But yeah, I'm disappointed by that drama. But I want to say that Jin Young and the Yoon Jae character were brilliant to the end. I really liked them, but I really don't like how the show ended.
I actually really liked what happened to Kang Sung-mo's character. Like, I liked where they went with it. My issues were to do with the medical diagnosis, which was crapshoot. And also the fact that Kang Sung-mo didn't actually have a proper character development. Like, they had an amazing idea, but the execution was really bad.
That's what made the drama ultimately not land, as in all of the emotions of it, because the Kang Sung-mo character was so disconnected from you emotionally as a viewer that it just, I couldn't bring myself to then care about him afterwards when everything was revealed. Like, he was off the grid for like the whole middle stretch of the show.
Yeah, for no apparent reason.
Yes,
man.
he just disappeared for some mysterious drama reason, which was never explained. And it was like he was leading everyone on this wild goose chase. It was like a very sort of chess mastery kind of, but not. And so when at the end they produced a sympathetic story for him, I could not find it in myself to be sympathetic. I mean, I was kind of on a surface way, but it wasn't well done. The pacing, the directing, the writing, all of that did not work. Even though the actors' performances, I mean, apart from Kang Sung-mo, I actually don't think he did as good a job. Well, then he didn't have a lot to work with, so.
No,
anyway,
Kim Kwan was adequate, but
But his character was written really badly.
It was.
The last 2 episodes were just lots of close-ups of his crying face, and it's like you overused this one expression, so it no longer has impact to see that single tear track down his face, and you're just like,
yeah. But you know what they did do well? They cast the younger Kang Sung-mo really well. So that's the boy I had an emotional connection with.
Yeah, that's
was
true. Was it Sky Castle he was in? Jo Byung-kyu?
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, Sky Castle.
Okay, so I thought he did a really good job. So because the backstory in the end delivered to us via door frame was just so much of the younger actor, it did have an emotional impact on me, and I liked where they went with it. That's great.
I liked it as a story, like in terms of
it's more in theory, right?
Right, but the execution just didn't really work for me.
Yeah, agreed.
But Jin Young was delightful to the end.
Yeah, so much so. And they're probably setting us up for season 2, which I'd actually be down for, I think. I mean, especially
I don't know if they are, but I would watch it.
I would watch it too.
I enjoyed the actors that much. And now they've got the tragic backstory out of the way and they can move on. And I don't actually even like procedurals, but I like Jin Young now. So that should be fun. That was a long minute. We can move on.
Okay.
On to newly airing dramas. Abyss?
Yeah.
Saya?
Yeah, so you're watching this, Burma, aren't you?
So I watched the first 2 episodes.
Okay. And what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were, let me see. Why did they waste Seon-guk's cameo? Why did they do that? That was just sorry, I'm a bit too involved with Seon-guk. But
he was there for like 30 seconds.
Oh,
there was nothing for him to do. It was so bland. How could they have Seon-guk and Jang So-min together and they made a 100 million stars reference, but it was so bland. It was Anyway, moving on.
Like 80% of cameos disappointing though.
Yeah, that's probably true. However, so in I have only one piece of primary opinion at this point, which is that before their faces change, we should have seen those two characters interacting as friends and not just on one conversation over phone call when one of them was almost dying. Like we should have seen these two as friends and not after their faces changed and they were attractive and attracted to each other. It just I wanted to see what their relationship was, not just in flashbacks. Like they should have started with their relationship.
But then that's less screen time for the main actors, so that's
Would
probably
maybe
why.
like 5 minutes of screen time less.
Well, let's just quickly summarize what the setup of the show is. So you've got An Hyo-seop's character, who is actually originally played by An Se-ha, and he's meant to be this great guy, but not great looking, and his looks are a punchline basically for everybody. And he's just been dumped by his girlfriend, and he's at his fiance, in fact, and so he's at the top of a building contemplating throwing himself off it, except he can't sort of follow through. So he's just sort of standing on the ledge sobbing and trying to call his fiance because and then he suddenly gets knocked off the building and dies. So it turns out that he's been killed accidentally by aliens, and they're like, "Oops."
What?
And the aliens are Seunguk and gentlemen.
Wait, there's alien? What?
Wait, were they aliens? I just thought they were like angels or something. Like, I don't know, modern day Grim Reapers.
The wiki page says alien. So actually this is sci-fi rather than fantasy. I'm not sure. But anyway, the wiki page calls them aliens. You can't actually tell what they are in the show. So they're like, whoops, killed the dude. And they have to revive him. So they have this special marble, which is called the Abyss. And they're like, they revive him with that, and then they give it to him and say, well, you're the owner now.
Why?
And
just revive him and go away.
When he's revived, your form changes to the form of your soul. Apparently. So his soul turns his physical form turns into An Hyo-seop.
So he has an An Hyo-seop shaped soul.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then stuff happens, blah blah blah, and he's had a crush on his friend, who later is played by Park Bo-young, Go Se-yeon, and she's originally played by a different actress who is tall and willowy and
she's a kick-ass prosecutor,
right? So, oh yeah, also
and very very proud of her beauty.
I feel like she owns it. She's not
she does. She's not irritating.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out that he's had a crush on her for the last 20 years, and she set him up with his now ex. There's this whole weird dynamic where she's like, if only you weren't so ugly, and how can I date a face like that?
What?
And just
she doesn't say that to him, but she said it to somebody else. Have you seen his face?
Like I say, his looks are a punchline, but then he's also that toxic nice guy that, I'm so good,
how dare you reject me?
Exactly. If you had accepted me, then I wouldn't have tried to kill myself. And it's no.
These people do not sound like people whose souls would end up looking like Ken and Park Bo-young. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, so Go Se-yeon, the prosecutor, is murdered, and it's not a spoiler, it happens pretty quickly, and he revives her with the Abyss, and her soul takes the form of Park Bo-young, which is meant to be very ordinary, an ordinary,
friendly sort of face.
Yeah, you're a girl next door kind of unremarkable.
Which is nonsense.
No, I'm buying it. She is when you compare the two, you're
that's how they're playing it, and she is playing the girl next door vibes pretty well. True.
Yeah,
that's because she's an amazing actress. In no world does she look ordinary.
Hey, this is as ordinary as main female leads are allowed to be. Okay.
The thing is, her looks are sort of more cuteness based, whereas the other is more kind of traditional,
glamorous.
Yeah, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. So that's all the basic setup. It actually, it's a complete mess. The first 4 episodes are a total mess. Yet somehow they remain compelling. So there's a serial killer in the mix here, and this dude has been going around. Yeah, of course there is. And it's a bit of a spoiler. Do you want me to give you kind of episode 2 spoiler?
It's fine. I've watched it, and Anissa won't be
Anissa,
spoiled
you
much
gonna
by
watch it?
this.
Okay.
I doubt that I'm gonna watch this. It sounds insane.
So it turns out that he was on his way to Seaton the night that he was revived. And he sort of bumped into someone. He came across someone lying dead on the street, and he panicked and ends up unknowingly using the abyss on them. And that person turns out to have been the serial killer who was on his way to kill Seon. And that's because he revived that guy. That's why Seon was killed after that. So it's a really good twist.
It is, but the hilarity is that he revived the killer, and the killer's soul looks like the killer's dad. So he just suddenly aged like with 30 years.
Lee Sung-jae, I think. Who was in Jealousy Incarnate.
He was in everything, okay? Every just corporate drama that I can, medical corporate drama that I can think of, he's in all of them.
So what he's revived into the form of his soul, which is supposedly ugly, i.e. older and hairier, and and he's this hotshot surgeon.
This whole premise sounds so problematic to me. I'm just
it's completely nuts. So what happens is that you're meant to buy that he looks totally different from his previous self, when all he's got is sort of a bit of stuck on facial hair and looks a bit grubby and has an ugly grey wig. And it's like, you can solve this by just cutting your hair, grooming yourself, and then you're not this recognizable trampy looking dude that's caught on CCTV everywhere. You can just so easily change that look. But no, apparently this is real world logic does not work in Dramaland, as we know. But it does get really interesting again after that, because the next twist is, Chamin is Anya Sub's character. He gets killed by the serial killer. And what's interesting... Oh, you haven't got... Oh, sorry.
No, wow, that's awesome. Tell me more.
Oh, are you sure? Because this is super spoiler.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure none of these spoilers will spoil anything for me.
Okay.
Go on.
So he gets killed, and what happens is, so the abyss is actually quite cool. So it reveals its rules one by one. It feels a little bit like the beginnings of what's it called? Memories of the Alhambra, with these game rules and stuff. So
yeah, but the rules were actually rules, and they meant something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the abyss, what happens to it is, if the original owner is killed, it then gets passed on, it automatically transfers ownership temporarily to the next revived, who is the murderer. And that is such a cool twist, which a murderer is killing people, right? And they keep coming back to life. And
oh my god.
It's so cool. So you know who the murderer is really quickly, within the first episode, more or less.
Yeah, so, but you sort of guess it in the first episode, second episode, you're pretty much convinced.
But the problem with that, which was also the problem in Psychometric, is that when you reveal your murderer too soon, how do you then maintain the tension after that? So I worried about this, because I know who he is. Plus, he was as a character, as a villain, he's not particularly deep and he's not particularly interesting. He's a very cookie cutter psychopath killer. There's no there's no motivations, there's nothing below the surface. There's just he's like a walking plot device and not much more than that. But now, episode 6, you've got another twist at the end of that, and that's maybe he wasn't the murderer after all, and that I'm thinking it was somebody else now, but it hasn't been revealed. So I have a theory. It's it is a mess. It's a complete mess, but somewhere in there is quite a good story.
Wow. Hey, I might actually start watching it again.
Ishian, who does lots of enjoyable secondary roles, he's great in this.
And he's always good.
Yeah, and he partners up a lot with Park Bo-young, so you're that's a really good dynamic. And I hate to say this about An Hye-sub, because I adore him as Chan, but he doesn't have a lot of screen presence.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that too. His character doesn't actually...
I can't see a trace of Chan in him, which is, neither good or bad, but, I hate to say this, but I find him a bit of a charismatic black hole.
I felt the same way about him in Father is Strange, which is why I was so shocked to find out that it was the same actor playing Chan. And
he might be a director's actor. He needs a really good director to This our director who actually has a very clear vision to be able to portray the character well, because
and
you
can work to his strengths.
Exactly.
Or he needs to meet like particular roles and particular characters to really shine.
Yeah, that can also be, because I think he got his main lead too soon, if possible.
Yeah,
he hasn't developed the chops yet, so I'm not. Yeah, because definitely.
I wish Ishion would be he would be a great lead for this show. But of course, it's always the face that rules, isn't it?
I know.
So.
It's and it's not like he's not even good looking. It's just that
I know,
he doesn't
but
have
he's
that
not
particular
that
like boyish,
exactly.
like milky faced, like,
and long-legged.
Like that particular look that is apparently the only look that can be a hero's look.
Shame.
Yeah, I know.
But then the other thing is that oftentimes the side characters are more interesting than the main characters.
True.
Like, whenever you have secondary actors who graduate to lead actor roles, or, men or women, that those roles end up being less interesting than the secondary roles that they do.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So, what's next?
Secret
Life of my secretary. Jinx.
Yeah, I watched the first episode. Where are you guys?
I've watched 2 episodes. Tell me what you think first, since you watched 1 episode, and then I'll chime in with my own thoughts.
Okay, I actually don't know what I think yet. I don't think they have completely set up anything as yet. We've been given basic intros to characters, but the female lead, whom I don't know from anything before, I think. Have we seen her anything else before?
20 again. She was the friend of Cheju's character. Do you
remember? Okay, so
I really
I won't remember her.
Okay.
Yeah, she was also in Misty, which she was fine in that, but her character didn't have that much to do, because she was just like the foxy, like younger rival to Kim Namju. And she had her first lead role in Come and Hug Me, but I didn't watch that. But she's really good in this.
Yeah, but in the first episode, I don't think she has shown much as yet. So I'm not super sure about her or how I feel about her. And her character hasn't had much to. Again, I'm still reserving opinion. Whereas the male lead, whose name I've forgotten, of course,
Kim Young-gun.
That guy.
Kim Young-gun.
Kim Young-gun. Okay, fine. I said it.
Young Kwan.
Kim Young-gun.
Look out, guy.
Right, look out, guy.
I love him so much.
I like him a lot here already. I mean,
I like him as an actor, not so much.
Plot hasn't moved much, but
yes, as an actor, I would love him so much. Not as a person. Agree.
From what I understand, the main plot elements, the secret life, quote unquote, doesn't even get set up for at least the first 4 episodes. So it kind of makes sense that nothing would make sense.
So are you okay with finding out what happens in episode 2? Because I feel like the story really doesn't get going until episode 2.
So I watched a bit of episode 2, not the full of it, but I think I'll be okay, because I'll probably be watching it tonight anyway.
Okay. Oh, and by episode 2, I mean the second hour of the show, not.
Yeah. So do I.
Because it's chopped in half. But basically, the first episode was fine. After we giggled over the premise of the hot-blooded secretary last month.
Yeah.
I just honestly started because of the cast. I just really like Kim Young-kwang as an actor. I think he has something very unique and special. And so when I started and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then it's kind of a typical story of a long-suffering heroine and her arrogant, cold boss. Although
who also has prognopatia? What would that face not recognizing thing?
Yeah, but that doesn't happen until this accident or this murder attempt, right? And so before that, the thing that's interesting to me is that he's a genius at remembering faces. And he goes from a genius at remembering faces, being a genius at remembering faces, to someone who can't even see faces anymore.
I think it's more that he can read faces than remembering. He can tell what people are thinking and tell the motives of a person.
It's both. So he's really good at remembering remembering their names and who they are and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's also really good at reading their expressions. But then he ends up getting, because he had a brain surgery when he was young. There's this little clip in his head. So when he falls, it kind of moves. And so now he not only can he not recognize people anymore, he can't even see their faces. The only person who he can actually recognize is her. and he doesn't know why he can recognize her. I hope this isn't spoiling it too much for you, Saya.
No. Oh, sorry. I don't know what's happening.
Okay. But like episode 2 is what tipped me over into being like full on, like all in for this drama, because he, in the first hour, he's like she's completely in his power because she's a contract employee and he never hires his secretaries for more than 1 year, which is like because his first secretary betrayed him in a really horrible way, which we don't know what it is yet. But she like really needs the money because she wants to send her sister to UPenn, and it's like freaking expensive. And but he just like won't rehire her, even though she's like probably the best secretary that he's ever had. And it even seems that he has some like tender feelings towards her because he always can recognize her in her crowd, and he tells his best friend like I could recognize her even if I went blind, and I feel like I could hear her voice even if I went deaf. And so, like, there's obviously something under the fact that she's the only person that he recognizes. But the other thing that's really interesting is, like, now that, like, after he fired her, or, like, he didn't rehire her, he's, like, now begging for her to come back because he needs her. And I like how they have him saying these things to her that under any other circumstances would be really romantic. You're the only one whose face I see. Everybody else is a blur to me. Like, I need you so much. But it's really like literally the truth. And he's like, and she's like, why would I come back? Like, you're coming to me now. He's like, no, I really want. And so like seeing him being humbled like that is like extremely entertaining because he totally does. But also he plays this character with so much depth, and I was like in tears at a certain point. Like, it's very moving. So they do a really good job balancing like the humor of the situation, but also making it really heartfelt. I don't know. I'm really liking it. I'm really liking it, and I can't wait. And especially because like apparently there's somebody out to kill him now. But because he can no longer recognize faces, that person has come very close to him, but he doesn't recognize that it's the guy that tried to kill him. So it's like very, So, and also, like, there's definitely, like, a lot of shady stuff going on because, like, there's the company politics I'm not really a fan of, but, yeah. And I think, I might be wrong, but I feel like they're doing a pretty good job of, like, giving both of the leads an interesting story instead of just giving one of them a really in-depth, complex backstory, and one of them is just, like, there. So I like that, too.
Can I come in here and say that I have it on good authority that Jinkiju was really good in Come Here and Hug Me? I haven't watched it, but I have heard this from our friend Miss Victrix.
Who is awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, I really like her so far, and yeah, I'm really excited to keep watching this. So
I'm going to be watching it when I have time again. One day.
Yeah. and I'm watching it anyway. So yeah, you convinced me too to keep on watching. Okay, a shout out here to Catherine, who's one of our listeners. She left a comment on our YouTube channel telling us to give this one a chance, and so that's why I picked it up. And thank you, Catherine. Watching it, and Anissa loves it. So
I do love it. Yay. I already love it, and I have a good feeling about this one. So what else are we watching?
Angel's Last Mission.
Oh my gosh, I'm so curious about this.
So, I don't even know why I picked it up. It was just so random. I think I was just having one of those sort of like vegetative moments where I'm just like, I'm tired, I can't move, and I don't want to start her private life because then I'll just like marathon 8 episodes, and I don't want to do that. So I was like, oh look, 1 episode is out. Let's just sample it. And because Shin Hye-sun, and I love Shin Hye-sun, and I'm very surprised. It's actually really good. Like, it immediately like grabs you. So Shin Hye-sun is a prima ballerina. It opens on her performing the lead role. What do you even call these things? I don't know anything about ballet, but she's like the lead, the principal dancer for Swan Lake. But then she has this like horrible accident, and one of the lights falls on her, and a shard of glass falls in her eye, and she goes blind.
No. So you're like, why does she always have to go through so much pain?
I know. And it's like, you know, like her in the beginning of 30 but 17, where she's like so broken and like in pain. So you've got like this, this is actually like her 30 but 17 character is much more vulnerable in an obvious way. Whereas her character in this, and I need to check her name, I keep forgetting their names. Yonso. So her name is Yonso. So she has this accident at which we sort of experience as a nightmare / flashback, and then she wakes up from the dream, and it's been 3 years since her accident, and she's blind now, and she's been waiting for a cornea transplant for years. But you get to see, like, you get this full episode of her managing her life as a person with visual impairment, and I love that we get to see her living a life, being really like traumatized by her accident, of course, but also just putting that, not, I don't want to say it's a strong front, but she's tough, and she doesn't let anyone get to her. She's actually she's really prickly and thorny, but she's not unlikable. So she's very sympathetic, but she's also really, like, all her staff hate her. She's like, she's a heiress of a foundation or a ballet company or something. Anyway, she's rich, and her parents have already died, so she's like, she hasn't got anybody in terms of close family who's still around to look after her. So she's very alone. She's got to put on this face all the time so that people don't walk all over her. But at the same time, you see her experience, like, she experiences these situations, like, she goes out for a walk. Usually she goes with he's an ajashi who's, like, been with the family for like 20 years. He was her dad's secretary, but now he's kind of like a stand-in for her dad, who is no longer
this
living.
Reminds me of Boyfriend and the teddy bear driver ajashi.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was actually thinking INR again. I'm sorry, I'm not a robot again. Because it's the whole, the rich person with the butler dad figure, alone and isolated. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is that, so you get to see her go through this one encounter where she's gone out on her own this time, and she's set upon by, like, two teenage young men who tried to, like, sexually assault her. And like, she handles the situation without being hurt, and she's actually pretty badass. But then afterwards, like, you get to see that actually, she was scared, and she has she has an emotional breakdown, and so you can see that she's, like, facing these really tough situations and handling them. But then afterwards, you can see how difficult it is for her as well. So it doesn't, like, sugarcoat any of that. It doesn't make her like a superhuman figure who's like, oh, she's blind but still amazing and can handle everything the same way seeing
she's
person
basically
can.
Daredevil. Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand that reference, but yeah.
He's a
blind advocate, super person.
He's a blind superhero.
Yeah. I think she's genuinely disabled, and you can see the ways that it affects her, but she also handles it, like, within her ability, but she's also super affected by it, whether or not she'll show you that.
It handles the disability well. Like, it doesn't.
I feel like it really does.
It's interesting that they have made the heroine blind in this, because in Secret Life of My Secretary, you also have a main character who's dealing with a disability, although it's different. But then her older brother the heroine's older brother is also blind. And I get the sense that he wasn't always, because he can write, like, regular letters. But I'm a little iffy about the portrayal. So I'm going to have to keep watching that to see whether they're doing a good job. But it seems like they're doing a really good job with this. So I mean, we've had bad experiences with the portrayal of disabilities in K-drama in the last year, like with Where Stars Land. But we're definitely seeing more portrayals of disability, I feel like, than we did like 5 years ago. So even if it's flawed, but it's good to have more visibility. Although, I mean, you still have disabled people being played by able-bodied people, which I'm always a little bit...
Yeah. Well, things change in episode 2, so I don't want to give anything away, because I think you guys will enjoy this, but the story just changes quite... Oh, I haven't even gotten to the other part, which is that, so you have Elle.
Oh, the angel. That's right.
The angel. Yeah, and he's really, like, Elle's quite charming. His weakness has been when it comes to sort of deeper emotions, like heavy emotions, things like, like just more complex sort of grief and things like that. So we haven't got to those sort of heavy emotions yet, but he's still at that point where he's really charming and entertaining. He overdoes it a little bit, but it's entertaining. So he's this angel who is assigned to look after animals. So you always see him trying to sort of bend the rules, and like he releases dogs from cages. Borma will love that scene. And he's just generally all about like the rescue. But he's not allowed to interfere in human affairs. But he keeps.
Oh, my heart is already all squishy.
he keeps coming across situations where Shin Hye-sun's character Yeonsu is like experiencing something really difficult. Like, for example, that scene where she was being assaulted, and he watches her handle it, and he's like, "Rah." You know, he's impressed, and just at those moments where he thinks that he ought to step in, he's like, "Well, she's handled it." So he keeps encountering her like 2 or 3 times, and at one point he loses his special angel handkerchief, which he needs because his job is nearly over. He's got 24 hours left, and then he gets to go to heaven. So he's like, yeah, going to heaven, and then he loses the handkerchief, and then panic, and she has it, and she's been like, because she, for some reason, she's got her other senses are very keen, so she can detect the presence of somebody. She can remember like she can differentiate people by voices, but he's not visible to humans, so he's like completely shocked when she senses his presence, and like he says stuff not expecting to be heard by humans, and she hears him, but it's like that one time. So then everything changes by episode 2, so I can't tell you anything, but it gets really fun. But guys, watch it before.
Okay. This sounds good.
I'm so
it is. It's surprisingly really fun. And yeah, it's and you've got Do Ji-won, who is Cheong-shin's mum in the wheelchair in what's it called, in Healer.
Yeah.
So she's actually a bit of an antagonist here, and she's actually really horrible. So on the one hand, I'm like, don't ruin Young-shin's Oma for me. On the other, you're like, this lady is insanely flexible. She's like doing splits all the time, and you're like, she's in her 50s.
Wow. I just wanted to say, like, a shout out to Shin Hye-sun, because she started out her first really big role, like her breakout role as far as I know, is like as this innocent younger sister in a family drama who has like a cute love story, and then she went from that to being like a sort of antagonistic, like really stylish second lead in Legend of the Blue Sea. And then she's done like, she did a hit family drama, which was, I didn't watch because Predator was in that, but like she did that. It was really popular. She had a really interesting character in Force of Secrets, as you mentioned. Then she did 30 but 17, which was like a 180 from her character in Force of Secrets. So like now she's doing this. So I mean, either like whoever chooses her roles or herself is choosing her roles is like doing a really good job, and she can clearly handle, I mean, she's such a good actress. She can handle it. I'm really happy to see the kind of roles that she's been getting over the last few years. Okay, are we done?
Yeah, I think our yak is.
So, do you have a dad joke ready for us, Saya?
I give me a moment. Hold on.
While you're looking for one, I just want to give a shout out to our listener Shorsha 10, who emailed us and said that she found penguin jokes in her local store, or she found penguin chocolates. And so then I was like, oh, we need to bring back the dad jokes. We're falling down on our duty. Apparently people actually like the dad jokes, even though my sister doesn't.
I mean, we kind of ended up accidentally scrapping them just because we forgot about them, and because
when we split up the episodes into our new format, we kind of left them behind.
So we know everyone missed them. They're coming back.
So by popular demand.
Yes. What we have interpreted as popular demand.
Yeah, one email is definitely popular demand.
I agree.
So, I start a new job in Seoul next week. I hope it's going to be a good career move.
What?
You get it? I'm just laughing by myself. I learned about, in my Korean class, I learned about the joke that no one laughs at. I can't remember the expression right now, but there's a proper Korean expression for laughing on your own joke, as in, that was lame. And then we talked about RJ gags. It's really funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
So was that the joke?
Wait, so you didn't get it? Yeah, that was the joke.
But what?
No, give us another one. We didn't get it.
I don't understand.
I start a new job in Seoul next week. I hope it is going to be a good career move. Career. Get it?
Oh.
This only works if you have a British accent.
Well, I do.
But I don't have one, so I didn't make that connection in my mind. Korea and career don't sound the same to me.
But they do, though.
That failed miserably.
It really did. That was sad. Okay, so this is bad and nothing to do with career. So these aren't like a question and requiring an answer. But, like, have you heard about the new movie Constipation? You can answer if you like.
No.
That's because it hasn't come out yet.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh my god. But it's actually kind of works because there's a lot of toilet humor in Korean dramas. That was hard for me to get used to at first. I was like, why is there so much talk about going to the bathroom?
I loved it. Nobody else ever like referenced bodily fluids and stuff in other places, and Korean dramas were full of them. People were always going and running off to the bathroom and just vomiting and just everything.
Okay, so I've got one more. You're going to not like this one. What's the difference between a politician and a snail?
And a snail?
Mm-hmm.
The snail.
The snail is less slimy?
Almost. Good answer. One is slimy, a pest, and leaves a noxious trail. The other is a snail.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so listeners, since you haven't been getting our dad jokes in a while, we give you like 3 in a row. But it's not a punishment, we promise. We still love you.
Can I give you one more?
Oh my god, Saya.
Oh god.
They're never going to listen to us again.
Do you know why I make puns?
No.
Because it's my responsibility.
I still didn't get it.
Responsibility.
Oh god.